This is Truth Be Told. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Truth Be Told. Today we're going to be talking about self-talk and self-care. We're going to be talking about positive and negative self-talk. This is a huge topic. I don't know about you ladies, but it's huge for me because I have negative things that I think about all the time or that I have even said about myself, and I have to constantly encourage myself to speak positive things over myself. So we are so happy you're joining us, and we hope that you leave away with this episode with kind of like a great takeaway on how to encourage yourself and get rid of that stinking thinking. So I read about this amazing article from Healthline, and Dr. Tim Legg, with 2 G's, want to clarify that. He said self-talk is important in many ways. It's the script that we use to frame our lives. If we consistently give ourselves negative messages, then we begin to develop automatic thoughts that take us from a particular incident to a negative emotional reaction. Conversely, we engage in positive self-talk. We begin to view the world in a more positive manner and will ultimately feel better about ourselves. We can't always control what happens, but we can control how we react to it. So how do you guys feel about what I just read from the doctor? Is there anything that stood out to you or anything that resonates with you about self-talk?
I mean, what resonated for me about what you just read
was
the part where it said, you know, the way that we speak to ourselves affects how we see the world.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and that's something that, I mean, you even read conversely about critical people is, you know, when people are, or when you see everything in a critical viewpoint, it's usually a reflection of just like the way that you're seeing yourself, or, you know, it's just kind of bleeding into your whole life. So.
So good.
Yeah, and for me, like, what I found is when I do struggle with negative emotions, which can happen quite a lot for me. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Enneagram. I hate to bring it in, but I'm a 4, and for those of you who don't know what a 4 means, it just means we're very emotional people. And I have struggled with understanding, like, my emotions aren't who I am, and separating that instead of, like, oh, I feel like I made a mistake and I felt like a failure. And so then I just convinced myself that I was a failure. And I started living from that lie that my emotions were telling me. Instead of being like, okay, that's not who I am. Maybe I made a mistake, or maybe like this happened and I hate that happened, or I responded or reacted a certain way because of how I felt. I started to learn how to, or I'm learning now how to separate what I'm feeling from like my identity. And I think that's like a huge part of like my way of self-talk, is understanding like, no, that's not who I am, and not living in that lie. And letting it pull me deeper and deeper and deeper, because I will live there in that deep pit of a lie until someone reminds me who I really am and what I have to offer.
Yeah, it was interesting when he said it scripts the way we frame our lives. Like the way he worded that, it just gave me the picture of how our mind really creates this distorted reality that's not really a reality. You know, it's like kind of like a false reality. And so when I'm thinking about my own self, if I'm just being completely honest, when I'm having like negative thoughts, or when I'm living from that negative lens, it really does even make me look at other people not in who they truly are, right? And so it's like my mess then becomes a distortion of them that makes them look messy, and it feels like it's this trigger. It goes back and forth, and it feels, for me personally, it's like I go down this rabbit hole of this downward spiral, and it's like piles on unless I stop it immediately. And I'm like, okay, wait, where is that feeling coming from? Like sometimes I will feel a certain way if I'm triggered by a certain environment, right? So like if I'm feeling uncomfortable about something, right, something will come up, and then I'm like, okay, well, why am I thinking this negative thought, right? Like maybe it's because I feel uncomfortable and I'm trying to project it on other people. And so I have to like literally stop in that moment, identify what's triggering those things, talk to myself, be real with myself, be honest with myself of what it is, and then be able to kind of like do my homework with that. You know what I mean? Of like just really defining what the root of maybe an insecurity is, or, you know, whatever.
I think it's such a cycle of judgment. Like the way that we judge other people is the way that we judge ourselves and vice versa. And I think if we can learn to be kind to ourselves, like we are going to be so much more kind to the people around us.
Yeah.
We're just going to have so much more grace. And if we have grace for them, we're going to have more grace for us. And so just understanding that it's kind of like this cycle, and you can either put like it into a positive motion or a negative motion. And it really does. It shows the way that you treat other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had my, this is just a little bit of a like touching home for me, but I had my 5-year-old son who's like I'm pretty sure he's maybe like a 4 on the Enneagram.
Easy to find.
He's like very emotional, like such the sweetest boy. Like he's my snuggler, but he's very hard on himself, and he's 5 years old, and he'll often like criticize his drawing or his coloring, or just himself all the time. And I'm like, as a mom, it like breaks my heart because I'm like, like you think so negatively of yourself. Like, why would you do that? Like, and so just trying to teach him how to kind of put in some more positive thoughts into his mind is really helping me. Like I'm kind of parenting myself on this.
Wow,
but
that's cool.
I bring him over and I'm like, tell me 2 things you love about yourself. And it took him a really long time the first time I asked, but now I'm kind of in this constant reminder for him. I'm like, tell me what you like about yourself. And if you can't tell me, I'm going to tell you what I like about you. And just rewiring his brain to see the positive first and foremost. Not ignoring the negative, but like, hey, we can work on the negative sometimes, like if it's legit, but like, let's focus on the positive, you know? So
Yeah, that's so good.
Do you guys find that difficult, like, to say positive things about yourself? Like, have you ever done that test to yourself of like, hey, just start jotting down positive things, and like you find yourself pausing? But like if you're like being critical, you can kind of write down a bunch of the things that maybe you don't like or criticize. Do you find one easier than the other is my question.
I don't find it hard to be positive. I find it hard to believe the positive. Not to say it. It's pretty easy for me. But to actually believe it when trials and situations would tell me otherwise, to actually believe in that moment.
Yeah.
The positive talk is a different story.
That's
for
real.
Me. Yeah.
That's real.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that in our last episode we talked about I talked about when we go to the mirror to actually like look at myself and see like the beauty, and so I think that the mirror has been a place where it's always been easier to be really critiquing and like be a place of like, these are all the things that are wrong with me, like squeeze areas that I'm like, okay, I want to be able to squeeze you. And now I'm like trying to make it a place of like celebration rather than critique, to be like, okay, like you look
so
amazing. And yeah, I was actually talking to just like a life coach type person last week, and I was like telling them like, if I have an acne or just inflammation on my face, and like my eyes always go there if I look at the mirror. It's just like this like constant, like I don't see anything else. And so just like telling someone that, and then like rewiring like, okay, like let's like have like a mantra over when you look at the mirror and like when you go to the mirror, and like kind of like try and break that off. And so it's still a work in progress to go to the mirror and like celebrate myself and like look at myself and be like, yeah, you're so beautiful. But I feel like when I look back on how I used to talk to myself like years ago and now, it's so different. And so it's still a journey, and it's still really hard. Like there's still squishy places that I'm like, I could do that, but
Squishy places.
Well, it's interesting you use the word rewiring, because that is, I mean, it's apparently scientific that we're actually wiring paths in our brain, telling our thoughts, where to go. It's called neuroplasticity. And I mean, this is something that like I was really into last year, especially in entrepreneurial groups. It's always like, rewire your brain so that you kind of step into a mindset that helps you achieve success, because a lot of times people, they need, you kind of do need to get up and do things a certain way to tell your day, like, this is the kind of day we're going to have, and like we're getting in this attitude, right? So I started doing that, but there were times where I would say, like, a friend would, say something that maybe sounded negative, and I'd be like, no, like I'd try to change the thought for them, and I think I got like a little annoying about it. Sorry, friends. But there was this, I don't know, there is this line that's like, okay, I want to be affirming and create a new belief, but sometimes it does feel like lying. So I don't really know where that line always is.
Yeah.
Like when you're not
like
feeling
the fake
it.
it till you make it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think
feel
it's important. I think it's important to fake it till you make it, because I don't know, it's a journey, it's a road. There's like some gray area and everything. So until you get there, might as well just try.
Optimistic.
I agree.
Well, it's funny. I actually don't think it's faking it. I think it's actually who you really are, but it's like catching up to like what you're saying of like what you actually believe that you are, right?
Yeah.
So if it was fake, it means it wouldn't actually be the truth, and what we're actually saying in our minds is actually the lie. So it's the truth. So I'm like, when people are like fake it till you make it, I'm like, no, actually you're speaking truth over yourself, and you just have to catch up to the belief of who you are. And like the cool thing about it and the powerful thing about that is that it's all about kind of sitting down and disciplining yourself, you know, when you're thinking about like working out or going to the gym, right? It's not like you go to the gym one time and all of a sudden you're losing weight or you're building that muscle, right? It takes repetition. So I think it's the repetition that helps me of like constantly waking up, constantly speaking like positive affirmations over myself on a daily basis. Like at the beginning of my day, it's like one of my disciplines that I do in the morning after my reading of just affirming affirmations, and like also to like declarations like over the day, over myself, over who I am. And I notice that when I don't do those, it's a lot more complicated for me in my mind than when I actually do that consistently. You know?
Well, Jen, you mentioned like the mirror is where you kind of have the first confrontation of negativity, and so the mirror is also a really great platform for you to write those things that you do love about yourself. And so I'll write inspirational quotes about like why I'll be successful and who I am and what I have to offer on the mirror with a dry eraser marker. Or to talk, and that's a really great way to like just start making a habit of affirming yourself and writing those truths on the mirror, because like we are our harshest critic, and it's so hard to live in a society right now where everything is just so visually focused, and we've got all these social media platforms. And like that's a way that I'll write my quotes, or like my husband even will just be the one to be like, this is why you're going to be successful, and or this is why you're beautiful, and write it on my mirror. And like it's a constant reminder, and I'm constantly like having that positivity like from the get-go and from the beginning of my day.
I do the same thing. Cool. And then I actually also put like, I have a what is it called? Like a long mirror. A tall mirror. What is it
Sounds like
a long mirror. Whole body.
It's called the Jimmy John.
Jimmy John.
Isn't that called that now?
I don't know.
I have like notes like from friends and stuff that are like encouraging, and I just have them like taped, like outlining like my entire mirror. So
That's awesome.
That is really cool.
It's like it's awesome. If you're feeling down, it's like, oh, like here's
I'm gonna
like,
go to your room and
come on over, please do.
all of
You're
us
like
are mine.
knock, you're like, can I come in? Yeah.
Mirror for affirmation.
Well, I resonate a lot with what you said about the Enneagram thing and just feeling like I'm a 4-wing, you know, 3-4 wing if you're nerds like us. But I feel like sometimes I have to have interventions with myself daily, because I don't always start my day perfectly like that. And I tend to have, you know, like something will happen in my day where I'm like, ooh, I just got hit with an emotion and I don't want this to derail me. But like thankfully I actually work with my spouse, and so I can go into the office and be like, okay, babe, something happened, and he's learning how to encourage me, and I'm learning how to encourage myself. You know, like I'm actually learning that like I do better with just like high fives, like like a high five. It's very aggressive high five, but he's like, you can do this, and I'm like, yes, I can.
Just
and
all
then get
day.
back
Just like
all day. It sounds really violent. Our neighbors are worried.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
I kind of have this thing in my head of like, if I wouldn't say it to my best friend, I'm not going to say it to myself.
That's good.
And so it's easier said than done, right?
Yeah,
so,
that's real.
I mean, I try to remember that. I don't always do great at it, but I try to remember that. And something else that I've tried is to do a negativity fast. So I'm not sure if anyone else has like tried this, but it actually is pretty scary. Because you realize how negative and
Yeah.
how much complaining we actually do on a daily basis when it's the thing that you're like really fasting and trying to get rid of in your life. Like from everything to sitting in traffic to just how frustrated you may get at your kids, at whatever it is, like your body. And it's like, wow, okay, there's a lot of this that I really need to purge and get out of my life. And it's such a good reminder to focus on that and really intentionally get it out of your life.
Well, like what we watch and listen to too is a big part
Right.
of it. Like we were talking, I mean, we were getting ready just for right now, and we were listening to a song came on while we're doing our makeup, and you were like, I can't hear this song.
Yeah,
It
I
just
cannot.
feels bad.
Yeah.
Actually,
I was like, turn this off. It's like, it releases something in the atmosphere to me that just makes me feel like, yucky.
Yeah.
You know?
Real, yeah.
I love that you said that, like, kind of protecting, like, what you're watching, what you're listening to. It kind of goes back to what I was talking about, like, about environments with different triggers and understanding what those things are and not being afraid to be different in that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, for example, someone else might think that's weird that I don't want to listen to that song because it might be their song, but it's, like, knowing what your boundaries are. Goes back to boundaries. Like, knowing what your boundaries are and what you are capable of experiencing without it affecting like your heart or your mind and like clouding it with like negativity.
Yeah.
So sometimes we can get so skewed, I think, as well. Like, for instance, if we're watching social media, sometimes like I like to run, like just dabble in it. I'm not great at it, but I'm going to apply for the Austin full marathon next year.
She dabbles a little.
Which I'm very excited. No, it's just like a bucket list goal of mine. I've never done a marathon, so I'm not that into it, you know. But I watched, like, I follow some girls who run, and I'm like, man, like they are like cut. They just look great. They have great form and everything. And sometimes, like, I'll even say to my husband, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm running. Why don't I look like that? And he's like, well, because they're 21 and haven't had any kids. And I'm like,
my gosh.
oh, yeah. Like, so just like being like the realist in the situation. Because we always kind of compare ourselves to other people, but we don't bring the facts into it. And it's like, well, why don't I do that? It's like, well, because I'm not meant to be doing that. That's not my life call or my life, you know, projection or whatever you want to call it. And just having grace for the differences, I think, helps you be kinder to yourself.
It's so true. And you said something about like a negativity fast. And I know Chris did one too. We both did one. And again, it goes back to that logic of consistently doing it.
Yes.
So I think the one we did was like 40 days, right? Like a 40 day.
That's what I did.
Cool. We did the 40 day. And notice how like 21 days they say to like rebuild a habit is like a great number to start. So like, even if we like, I don't know, I kind of want to challenge people who are watching to just do that. I think that is such a helpful thing. Like,
really
do a 21 day, do a 40 day negativity fast, and like have a journal and jot down and really kind of track along. And it was life changing. I know kind of, we had talked about it before, and I think it really is important. Again, that consistency aspect of what you were talking about. Like, it's not like she did it for 5 days, people. Like, it was like a 40 day, like
it's
every
hard.
single day,
It's
like
hard.
choosing to put yourself in that.
And practically, like, you have to actually, I mean, a lot of what we're talking about comes with the idea that we're self-aware enough to know that the negativity is creeping in, or like the criticism is creeping in. And so I think like step one to even doing a fast like that is actually sitting alone with yourself every day and being like, this is how I feel today, unfiltered. Like, I don't know if you guys do morning pages. There's a great, it's an online subscription you can do called 750 Words. It's 750words.com. It's like $5 a month or something, and it tracks like, okay, you did your words today, and you get points, which I love. I don't know.
It's not sponsored video, by the way.
Not sponsored. Okay, yeah, it's free for certain amount of days. But I love it because I mean, it challenges me to actually sit with myself, and then it's private and unfiltered. So you can just non-judgmentally.
What do you do?
No, you just type. I mean,
you type.
And for me, like, doing this kind of journaling, like, I love it, but my thoughts are fast. So
Right.
I'm like, behind you.
And you only get like 750 words. Is that
You
the
can
key?
you can do more than that, but that's the minimum because it's 3 pages.
Okay.
It's like morning pages. So
Wow.
That's really
recommend.
Yeah.
Kristen is the go-to on all the new apps and everything that's like on trend. I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but that sounds amazing.
Yeah, I read and stuff. I don't know. I read and stuff. I'm sure you read too. I
do. I just don't read about apps. Well, your work kind of puts you in the line to do that.
I'm a web person. Yeah.
Well, it's funny that you're talking about 750 pages because in my acting class, one of our kind of requirements that we had to do every single morning was to write nonstop for like 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like not thinking about it, not judging yourself, not critiquing yourself. It was just straight 5, 10, 15 minutes. Yeah, it was kind of like that. And you could not, you just, and you would kind of see like, oh my gosh, that's what's in my mind. And then like the rest of the day, it just felt like,
Yeah. I think that's so good, and I think that it would like play into a lot of real situations in life.
Yeah.
Like one of the sentences from this quote, I don't remember it exactly.
Yeah,
could I read it?
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, if we constantly give ourselves negative messages, then we begin to develop automatic thoughts that take us from a particular incident to a negative emotional reaction. And immediately when you read this, I was reminded to a breakup last year and how differently I'm getting emotional. How differently I faced it than other breakups. Like I felt like this is so true. When you're going through rejection, I think of any sort, and that's not just for single people who are dating, but anybody, like you can view it and it can like take you out and you can be like, what's wrong with me? How did this happen to me? Like all this stuff will come in, and that's how I viewed a lot of rejection for the majority of my life. And then I just remember this breakup last year. I just felt like I had this like inner invitation to view it differently, to be like, okay, you can like, you can face the incident of rejection without letting it take you out as a human, without letting it like kill you in your spirit. Yeah. And I actually felt like choosing the opposite. It was messy. It was not good. Like it wasn't the prettiest. It wasn't pretty and packaged, but like I felt more confident at the end of that process than like ever before. Yeah. And it was just like, wow, like these incidences can be so, like, we just go through life like thinking we need to have these negative emotions tied to them. Like just naturally you would think I'm like got broken up with, I have to be like, I should be devastated. And it was sad and it was hard and all that stuff. But, you know, like it can, I don't know, I don't know what I'm trying to say anymore now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. That's powerful too.
Sorry, one quote that like I keep hearing over and over, it's probably one my mom told me all the time growing up, is like, what you meditate on, you will become. And I think that's so true, because if you meditate on the positivity like we were talking about before, like you're more likely to love yourself, and you're meditating on your abilities and who you are, and like even family or positive relationships you have, and you focus on all the good things that have been given to you in life, and focusing on that instead of like throwing this pity party for yourself, and then you're struggling to breathe and you're like, why do I feel so like I don't know. Emotions are hard to deal with, and they're hard to be real and honest with. Like we've all kind of mentioned how it's hard to be honest with yourself, and I think meditating on the truth and reminding yourself, what I meditate on, I will become. So what do I want to become in this life? You have one life, and it's too short to be hard on yourselves. I'm talking to myself too.
Yeah, we're all talking to ourselves.
We're talking a lot about compassion. Like self-compassion. Because it's not just about self-love, because self-love is, I mean, that's important, right? That's a part of it. But a lot of it is self-compassion. Like, I am going to mess up, or I am going to, like, I've been through this thing. It doesn't define me. Right. And you give yourself the grace to actually become more.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful that you were talking about that kind of like a different language in conversation, because I kind of wanted to give examples to people that are watching of how to take the negative and switch it to a positive. So I'm just going to read a few of these that I found online. So the negative one is, I'll disappoint everyone if I change my mind. And the positive affirmation is, I have the power to change my mind. Others will understand.
So good.
Another one, right? Like, it's like,
we're already used to
oh man, okay. A negative one, which is the lie, right? We're going to call it a lie. I failed and embarrassed myself. The truth is, I'm proud of myself for even trying. That took courage.
Yes.
another one just because it feels good. I don't know. I feel like I'm getting free here. I feel like I'm getting free. Okay. A lie. I'm overweight and out of shape. I might as well not bother. The truth. I am capable and strong, and I want to get healthier for me. And,
so
you know,
good.
we will add some in the comments below just to kind of give you guys some positive affirmations that you could speak over yourself. And just kind of like lastly, to kind of tie in what everyone was saying, I think we all talked about identifying the root of the negative self-talk as step one. I think that we can kind of all evaluate, checking in with yourself. How are you thinking? What is your thought process? Find the humor. We never talked about laughter and the power of laughter, but there's so many amazing articles and facts on positivity of laughter and what it actually does to your body and how it actually is healthy for you. There are health benefits with laughter. So watch a funny movie, be around funny people. And also too, another tip is surround yourself with positive people and then also to write down some positive affirmations. So is there any other takeaways, things that you guys could give to someone who's maybe watching that you feel might be beneficial for them if they're struggling with negative self-talk?
I know I keep bringing it back to the mom role. That's kind of the life I'm entrenched in at the moment. But like, just even that whole how you would speak to your best friend, speak to yourself. But like, how do you want to raise your kids to believe who they are?
Yeah, that's
you know,
good.
and like, and start that now, because it's not magically going to happen when you have children and you're responsible for these lives that you're beginning to shape. And I think it's really cool because we're in a generation where we're talking a lot more about, you know, self-talk and self-care and all this kind of stuff. And I don't think our parents' generation really had those tools.
Yeah,
and so we kind of get to create new normals going forth of how the next generation is going to view themselves, you know? And so by starting now, I think we're setting the next generation up for success by teaching them how to view themselves and talk to themselves. So,
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any like
And if it's something you struggle with and you feel like you don't want to be alone in it, pull on other people and be real with them and pull someone into your life that you know will like trust and value and honor you and your emotions, good or bad, and they will be that accountability for you. And don't feel like you have to be alone in dealing with your emotions and positive self-talk. Like, pull someone in to call you out and not let you sit there alone if you feel like you don't thrive in being alone. But some people love to process alone, and I'm like, someone talk to me.
introvert, extrovert?
We should do a show on the Enneagram, just because I'm
That would be
curious.
so
I'm
fun.
just starting to dabble, but I'm like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, a
it's fun.
4 would say that.
It is fun. I keep thinking about the word forgiveness too here, because sometimes like things can happen to us that make us feel like either there's something wrong with us or we've done something that, you know, I think that is part of compassion and moving on and and learning about this. So learning to forgiving ourselves
others,
even.
ourselves.
Huge one.
Yeah, it's so powerful. Jen, did you have any like?
Yeah, I think to tie into what Jan Marie was talking about, I think it's important to at least let someone know, like let someone in on the fact that you're on this journey, you know, wherever you are on that self-talk scale or spectrum. I think that it's really important to like let someone in and be on that journey with someone to help them keep you accountable. And then also I just want to say, like, our seasons will like shift at some point where you won't need, or you still will want people to like encourage you, but to just like embrace when it shifts, when you like gain that confidence, and then like positive affirmations are then become like a bonus when you get to that place like within yourself. So I think just like embracing where you're at is like really important, and letting someone know where you're at on that journey.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for watching this episode of Truth Be Told. If you liked this video, please like it, hit subscribe to know about all the awesomeness we have coming. And we would also love to hear your thoughts. What are things that you do to encourage yourself? How do you cultivate positive self-talk in your life? Thanks so much for watching.